Well, good evening and welcome to the neighborhood. And Carol, after that introduction, I wish I had invited my mother. But actually, after Carol's presentation, I think I know the answer to Whither Wall Street, and it's Back to the Future. And one of the things we like to say about Lower Manhattan is that it's 400 years of innovation, and I think Wall Street is an emblem of that. Can we hit the lights so everybody can see the picture? Is that possible? All right. I should know what I'm going to say. So, Whither Wall Street, I think we need to begin in the beginning. And Carol has taken us through the evolution of New Amsterdam, the rise of commerce and finance on Wall Street from the 1792 Buttonwood Tree Agreement that led to the birth of the American financial movement. Of course, what most people forget is that it was all destroyed in 1845. There was a huge fire in Lower Manhattan that started on Pearl Street that burned down every bank, every merchant house, forced 23 of the city's 26 insurance companies to go out of business. But then, of course, it started again. And as you said, boom and bust, the history of Lower Manhattan and the history of the Lower Manhattan business community has really been one that was best channeled by David Rockefeller in the late 50s as business activism through visionary planning. And Rockefeller, when Chase decided to build their world headquarters here in Lower Manhattan, kind of bucking the trend of moving to the new bun-shaft buildings in Midtown. Rockefeller decided that the vision for Lower Manhattan was not the typical business vision. It was one that included parks, it included opening up the waterfront, it included residential living, it included improvements in the public realm, public-private partnerships, and in a sense, everything that we're talking about today for Wall Street. So one of the proposals that Rockefeller's group, the Downtown Lower Manhattan Association, which I have the privilege to lead as well as the Alliance, did in the early 1990s with the Department of City Planning was a plan for Lower Manhattan, and it was a plan conceived in crisis. We've put some of the indicators or metrics of just what it was like up on the screen. Commercial vacancy rate was over 20%. New York City unemployment was high. There were very few residents, and there were lots of old, empty, obsolete office buildings. So one of the things that the report proposed was the creation of a BID, a business improvement district, which is really a mechanism that is used in failed downtowns. So the idea that a BID would be formed to revive Wall Street was pretty radical. And there were several kind of governing ideas. The first was, how do we reduce commercial vacancy? Well, one, we make an environment that is attractive to today's commercial tenant. The other is we get rid of obsolete commercial space, and we do that by encouraging residential conversion. And I think the wisdom of the Downtown Alliance and the DLMA in the early days was understanding that there was a real confluence between what residents want and what commercial tenants want. And they want life, they want action, they want activity. It's going to seem a little funny now, but at the time, one of the mechanisms that the Alliance developed to kind of brand Lower Manhattan as a forward-thinking area, it was the idea of making it wired, of creating an information and technology district on Wall Street. So that was the 90s. So as a BID, that's what we've done. We've done clean, safe, and well-transited, as Carol said. We've created an identity, 400 years of innovation, and we have created public realm and other programming. And what we've also done is try to position Lower Manhattan as a location for forward-thinking businesses. Of course, that's what it's been since the Dutch East India Company came in 1609. Then 9/11. And just to give you a sense of what that meant from a kind of planning and economic development perspective, The bid was formed in 1995 and started riding the wave of both the improved economy and this tremendous focus on creating a new kind of commercial district. So in 1995, 14,000 people lived in Lower Manhattan, south of Chambers Street. On September 11th, 23,000 people lived there. There were 2,300 hotel rooms. Vacancy was only 4%. There were almost 5 million annual tourists. And then overnight, that stopped. How many people remember when that was what Wall Street looked like? And it looked like that for a very long time. So the challenge was how to continue the growth amidst so much destruction. And as you can see, it was tough. Vacancy shot up, unemployment shot up. We literally lost 50,000 desks, or the equivalent in terms of jobs. But what was really interesting is that the residential population just continued to grow, despite the impact on public and private infrastructure, despite the destruction. So the challenge was really, I don't want to quote Rahm Emanuel, but not to waste a good crisis, how to figure out how to rebuild a new Wall Street and a new Lower Manhattan as opposed to an old one. And I think what really happened was this creation of the relationship between residential, tourism, and commercial growth, with retail in a way being the measure of success. And I think we see that very much on Wall Street. What are the elements of that? Programming, incentives for residential conversion, complete rebuilding of public and private utilities, and the promise of major capital improvements. So what do we have today, both downtown and on Wall Street? Accounting for the physical number of desks lost, employment really is holding its own. But we have a change in the businesses that are both on Wall Street and in the rest of Lower Manhattan. So while financial services remain the signature industry at about 28%, they are no longer the only industry. And not only that, they're only 14% of the over 250 businesses that have relocated to Lower Manhattan since 9/11. And what does this mean for Wall Street? And try to superimpose this on the maps that Carol presented. So this was Wall Street in 1995 when the bid was created. It was overwhelmingly commercial, more than 14 million square feet of office space. There were 121 residential units, and I can say I was already an old-timer in 1995. I moved to Lower Manhattan in 1982, but these residential units were few and far between. There were no hotels, and there was very limited retail. Today, the interesting thing is that Wall Street is still primarily commercial. There's still more than 10 million square feet of space, but there has been an explosion in residential units. There are over 3,000 residential units, and they're in big buildings. They're in buildings of 2 and 3 and 4, and even 500,000 units. There are 654 hotel rooms in 4 hotels. There's expanded retail. There's retail that is serving not only a office market, but an executive market, a visitor market, and a residential market. And there's even a museum on Wall Street, here at 48 Wall. So what are the challenges? I think these are some of the issues that the other panelists are going to speak to. There is the issue of conflating the national economy with Wall Street. The global economic downturn had interesting effects on Lower Manhattan, and I think until last quarter, Kent, Lower Manhattan was either the lowest or tied for the lowest among all central business districts in the country with respect to commercial vacancy. Yet every single media story about the global economic downturn was a picture of the Downtown Alliance street sign on Wall Street and Broad. So we kind of see that as the fight between Wall Street and Main Street because, of course, they are the same street in Lower Manhattan. There is the issue of security, and while Rob is going to present a improvement, it is still a huge issue. People feel surrounded by security, and it's had implications for traffic mobility. There is the issue of programming. Those are our tables and chairs, and we are delighted to follow the Bloomberg administration's model. But the biggest issue on Wall Street is the thousands and thousands of tourists who come to see the birthplace of American financial history, and what they see is a closed stock exchange. So what to do with the tourists, how to keep the kind of signature commercial businesses on the north side of the street, how to show the residential and hotel guests on the south side of the street that it's not just value, it's also value added, and how to integrate it into a new connected downtown. Well, we have one idea. And in keeping with, I know what Alex is going to present later, as the city's major capital investment all the way on the eastern side of Wall Street, going back to Carroll's 19th century map, you've got the East River on one side of Wall Street, you've got Trinity Church on the other, and most of that is effectively pedestrianized by the new security regime. What that has done is taken the last several blocks of Wall Street from William Street to South Street, and while they're open for traffic, there's no reason to be there and really no reason to drive there. Post 9/11, the city worked together with the state to create a small park in front of 120 Wall Street Park, or Manhattan Park as the Parks Department calls it. We think it's time to go for broke. And in our Water Street report, which we issued in May, we proposed creating a really fantastic gathering place in Lower Manhattan, restricting traffic, creating a gateway to East River Waterfront Park, creating a sense of destination. In other words, it's not your father's Wall Street, it's the 21st century Wall Street. And thank you.